Dear viewers, and welcome to Top 10 Skyrim builds. Top 10 of my builds, to be more precise. I'm not researching all Skyrim builds in the interwebs. I'm not that crazy. Picking the 10 was not a problem, putting them in an order, man, that was cruel. It's not that easy to judge your own work, especially not the newest one, hence the Poltergeist was disqualified. But my main criteria for this assessment are synergy, creativity and challenge. A build that overcomes a specific challenge I created for myself has a better chance to be on the list, so there's a build that uses a few spells, items and other effects to create something otherwise very hard to do. If you like Skyrim builds and the like, subscribe and ring the bell. More builds will come, even some Fallout builds are in the making. So stay tuned, and without a further ado, let's get this thing started. Number 10, the Zephyr, perhaps my best combat archer, fast on her feet and with her arrows, looking good in her mithril and overall very enjoyable. She enhances her archery with wind magic from the elemental distraction mod. This set of skills and spells allows her to keep her distance by hurling enemies away, and when she slows time with her voice, there is nothing that can stop her. She would make it to a higher position, but I think she lacks a little bit of originality, and builds like this are not exactly rocket science. That being said, I think we could use more combat archers, and she just looks so great in this armor. So yep, number 10. Number 9, the Warmage, an extremely terrifying fire mage with plenty of buffs to his fire spells, letting him tear through hordes of the Draugr without much effort even on legendary. He uses pretty much every trick I know to legitimately increase the spell damage output, legitimately as in without exploits and the like. Alchemy, enchantments, racial bonuses. On top of that, he adds shock and wind spells, so he also has some crowd control and anti-mage abilities. He truly feels like a mage specialized in warfare and battle, capable of changing the tide of war by himself. Again, the idea is neat, the execution is slick, but it's not my most unexpected and challenging build, so no higher than the 9 for this guy. Next, on the 8th position, we are moving towards something more my style. The Nightblade makes me proud because he works around the limitations of the Oblivion class he is based on to create a speed-based, acrobatic and very effective playstyle, relying on some low-level apocalypse spells. Also a bunch of very effective triumvirate spells allows him to deal a buttload of magic damage, teleport in 2 different ways, freeze enemies solid and pierce their frost resistance to actually make that element useful for once. He can avoid and negate a lot of damage through the sacred art of roly-poly, and he really feels like an Oblivion Nightblade without modifying the skill list. I really like this one, give it a watch after this. Now, number 7, the Stoneshield. Right off the box, the build gets brownie points for being a successful spell shield, a character fighting, well, with a spell and a shield. He is also amazing at crowd control with his Talons of Nirn spell, which creates an ungodly combo with his high spell absorption, basically giving him infinite magicka. Also, everybody around him is constantly staggered and or flung away into the air, which means he can destroy everyone slowly while they can't really do much. Unfortunately, he relies a lot on late game spells and abilities, so the early game may force you to lower the difficulty or break his unique combat style, so I couldn't, in my good conscience, put him in higher position on this list. Next, number 6, the Artificer, or the Ultimate Artificer, my very first published build, one of my most challenging to make and my response to people who constantly whine about crafting skills. This character doesn't perk any but crafting skills and lockpicking. During the testing of this one, I also discovered a little known Skyrim fact: fortified destruction potions actually increasing the damage of the Breath of Mchuak, the rarely used power granted when wearing the Visage of Mzamb unique helmet. This, with 2 Staffs of Flames, creates a damage output completely sufficient to succeed at Legendary, even without any magic or combat skill perks. He also has tons of stamina, increasing his health through enchantments and potions only. And the tons of stamina matter because, of course, the aforementioned Breath of Ventura uses stamina instead of magicka. Overall, a rather unique playstyle requiring a lot of caution and preparation in the early game, but really satisfying in the late game. If not for the early game difficulties, he would have been placed higher on the list. Okay, now we are in the middle of the video. Hold on, don't click away. I will mock you if you click away. Stay here. No, don't go anywhere. Like and subscribe now. Alright, okay. Now, number 5, Shadow and Flame. Again, a build relying on many synergies and unique items to become exceptionally good in all 3 main Elder Scrolls playstyles: magic, combat and stealth. She absorbs health with each hit, deals quite a lot of damage passively, enhances her sneak ability with spells and enchantments, and uses a super cost-effective fire spell of Ignite granted to the player when wearing the Azidal's Ring of Arcana. All of this combined means she doesn't need to worry about the attributes, which often is a problem if you need all 3 of them. She can execute decent sneak attacks, move unseen, stack a lot of fire damage on unsuspecting subjects, and all that was achieved in pure vanilla game. I need to remake her with Valkyrie at some point. Now number 4, the Sorcerer, my long-lasting dream of a character, only really possible when some cool mods like Triumvirate are in use. He also looks very cool. I don't even feel the need to justify this choice. Oh well, okay. He can stack a few spells absorbing health and magicka and damaging it over time on most enemies, meaning things quite literally start dying around him just because he is present, at least at his peak performance. Because Triumvirate spells are broken, he never needs to worry about health or magicka, since both attributes are absorbed constantly from a few sources at once. With high enough armor rating and all the absorption, he is one of my most powerful mages and one of my most unkillable characters. Right, great! Top 3 time! On the remarkable 3rd position we have the Prophet, a character who quite literally came to me in a dream. Although I had to fill in the details after I woke up, quite a lot of details. The Prophet is a very deadly restoration mage with a hint of a monk. His restoration spells can damage most enemies because of his Valkyrie perks and Triumvirate spells, and his bare fists deal just enough damage to be useful on legendary difficulty. And the best thing, he needs no magic items other than a divine amulet corresponding with the deity he currently appeals to for help via the Saint Elysia worship in the Winter Sun Fates of Skyrim mod. I am glad we've got through that sentence. With all this, he can get by with just his simple unenchanted grey robe and some sandals. He is truly a hidden gem of Skyrim character builds. Even the concept, trying to be like the Prophet NPC from Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, brings a smile to my face. And now number 2, flippin' Mage Hunter! Again, a character who refuses to use enchanted items on the principle of detesting magic users and enchantments and soul trapping and the like. No spells, no magic items, other than the Targe of the Blooded. He solves problems stemming from his principles by stacking a lot of ongoing damage on his enemies through a poison, through the bleed damage of the Targe, and through the bleeding damage of his Orcish axe. He even abuses a little bug, or at least an inconsistency in the vanilla game, for maximum effectiveness. The Orcish axes deal more bleeding damage than most others with the appropriate perks. He also excels at versatility, switching from an overwhelming shield charge to an overwhelming fury of blows with 2 weapons, to a highly improved crossbow. With all these combos, he can be quite successful without any actual enchantment spells or shouts, even on legendary, even against dragons, even against high-level mages. He's like the top sort. Before we move on to the obvious number 1, here are some honorable mentions. The Explorer, Ranger of High Hrothgar, Berserker, Monk, Duskblade, Pilgrim. And now number 1. The Swordmage. Yeah, my regular viewers are the opposite of surprised right now. This build is just epic poetry in a form of a middle-aged Nord. He casts spells and can infinitely trigger daily powers through his little sword, and he doesn't need any mod dedicated to this sort of stuff. Just a clever combination of Summer Mist enchantments, Winter Sun Zenithar worship, Odin spells and Valkyrie perks. His power attacks can cause quite a few fiery explosions at once, as well as place a levitation rune wherever he needs one, and also teleport him to the enemy, dealing insane raw magic damage. He can also become effectively immortal by triggering Mora's boon, healing all 3 attributes with each darn attack. He is freaking fast, especially in slow mode. He can set the floor on fire. He is my proudest achievement so far. Unfortunately, the video was done on a prehistoric PC, so it is a little bit choppy, just a fair warning for those who haven't seen it yet. I need to remake it at some point, or at least a very similar character with some new details. Yeah. And here at last we reached the end of the video. All these builds are good, thoroughly tested, and are linked in the description. Go and have a look. I beg you, I need views. For now, I am off to make even more builds. I have some very cool ones in mind. I try to publish them weekly or at least fortnightly, but sometimes, life gets in the way. Just subscribe and turn on notifications, alright? We will see each other again. Bye.
Jugglers and singers require applause. You are a
gamer!